Listening Exercise 5. Passage 1. Questions 1 through 3. Listen to a lecture in a biology class.
Today, I'll be talking about the concept of tropism as it relates to plants. Tropism, for those of you who don't know, refers to a bending of a plant or a part of a plant in response to an outside stimulus. There are 3 important kinds of tropism. They are phototropism, geotropism, and hydrotropism. In each of these kinds of tropism, a plant or a part of a plant bends in response to a different kind of outside stimulus. First, we'll discuss phototropism. The outside stimulus in phototropism is light. When a plant is affected by phototropism, it grows in the direction of a light source, such as the sun. The second kind of tropism is geotropism. In geotropism, the outside stimulus is gravity. In a plant affected by geotropism, the affected part of the plant grows directly downward because of the pull of gravity. When a plant's affected by geotropism, it's often the root structure that's affected. Okay, the final kind of tropism I'll discuss today is hydrotropism. When hydrotropism affects a plant, this means that the plant is drawn toward water. A plant under the effect of hydrotropism will grow in the direction of its water source.
Number 1. How is the information in the passage organized? Number 2. Is each of these kinds of tropism described in the passage? Number 3. What is each of these types of tropism? Passage 2. Questions 4 through 6. Listen to a lecture in an archaeology class.
Today, we're going to be talking about fossils. A basic definition of fossils is that they are the remains of plants and animals that have turned to stone. And today, we're going to be talking about how animals become fossils. The process begins when a living being dies. After an animal dies, its soft tissues break down. When the soft tissues have decomposed, only the hard parts of the body, such as the bones and teeth, remain. Over a long period of time, the hard tissue becomes buried under layers of sediment. As more layers of sediment cover the hard tissue, it becomes buried more and more deeply. When the bones are buried deep in the earth, they come into contact with groundwater, and a change begins to occur. Minerals from the groundwater seep into the bones, and over long periods of time, the minerals eventually replace the bones. This is the actual step when fossilization occurs, when minerals from the groundwater have replaced the actual hard tissue from the original body. The buried fossilized remains, which are buried deep within the earth, may then make their way back to the surface. As the earth moves, the remains are pushed around. If they get closer to the surface where they can be seen, or get near enough to the surface where they can be dug out.
Number 4. How is the information in the passage organized? Number 5. The professor explains the steps in the process of animal fossil formation. Put these steps in order. Number 6. Indicate whether each of these steps occurs as an animal becomes a fossil. Passage 3. Questions 7 through 9. Listen to a discussion by a group of students taking a law class.
We need to know about Clarence Darrow and some of his more famous cases.
Okay, I know that Clarence Darrow was a famous lawyer. What were some of his most famous cases?
He was famous for the Eugene Debs case and the Loeb Leopold case and the Scopes trial.
He was also famous for his part in resolving a coal strike.
Okay, let's go over each of these cases and make sure we understand them. The first one was the Eugene Debs case in 1895. Darrow defended Debs, who was the president of the Railroad Workers Union, after the railroad workers went on strike.
Wasn't the strike by the railroad workers called the Pullman strike?
Yes, it was. It was named after the Pullman, which was a type of railroad car.
The next situation was the Pennsylvania coal strike in 1902. Clarence Darrow was asked by the President of the United States to arbitrate the coal strike.
So this wasn't actually a trial. It was an arbitration.
That's true. Now, there are two other trials we need to know about. The Loeb-Leopold trial and the Scopes trial.
The Loeb-Leopold trial was in 1924. This was a very famous murder trial.
And Clarence Darrow was the defense attorney in this trial?
Exactly.
Now, the last case we need to be familiar with is the Scopes trial, but I don't know much about that.
The Scopes trial in 1925, also known as the Scopes monkey trial, was about evolution, about whether humanity evolved from monkeys.
And who was Scopes?
Scopes was a high school biology teacher who was charged with breaking the law because he taught evolution in school.
And Clarence Darrow was the defense attorney in this trial?
Yes, he was.
I think we've covered the information we need to know about Darrow. We know about 3 of the trials in which he served as defense attorney.
And we also know about the strike he helped to arbitrate.
Number 7. How do the students organize their discussion? Number 8. Do the students discuss each of these cases in which Darrow participated? Number 9. The students discuss a number of cases in which Clarence Darrow was involved. What was each of these cases about? Listening exercise 6. Passage 1. Questions 1 and 2. Listen as a student asks her advisor about a placement test.
I'm scheduled to take a placement test in math on Saturday. Is this something I really need to do?
It's to your advantage to take the placement test, but you don't have to.
What's the advantage of taking the placement test?
If you take the math placement test and do well on it, you don't have to take the beginning math class. You'll be able to start with an intermediate or even an advanced math class if you get a high score on the placement test.
And if I don't take the math placement test, then I have to start with the beginning math class?
That's right.
Well then, I think I can save myself an entire semester-long course if I do as well as I think I can.
Number 1. What is implied about the math placement test? Number 2. What is the student most likely going to do? Passage 2. Questions 3 and 4. Listen as a student meets with his professor to discuss a term paper he is writing.
Thanks for stopping by.
No problem. Why did you want to see me?
I need to go over the outline for your term paper.
The outline for my term paper? Is there a problem?
Well, you have a good topic and lots of interesting ideas here, but the outline itself could still be better.
Well, what can I do to improve the outline?
I have 2 suggestions to improve the outline. First of all, you need to organize the ideas a little more clearly.
So you think I have enough ideas, but they need to be better organized?
Exactly. And for my second suggestion, you don't, have much of a conclusion. You should really think about, strengthening your conclusion.
Okay, I'll work on the overall organization and the conclusion. Then what?
Well, after you've improved these 2 areas, I'd like you to resubmit the outline, and we can discuss it some more.
And when would you like the revised outline?
Well, don't take too long working on it. You really need to get the outline squared away so you can work on writing the paper. Let's say, within a week? You should get it to me no later than next week.
Number 3. How was this meeting most likely initiated? Number 4. What is the professor's overall assessment of the outline? Passage 3. Questions 5 and 6. Listen to a lecture in a botany class.
Today I'll be talking about the information in Chapter 22 from the text, the chapter on conifers. You should have read the chapter already and turned in the answers to the 10 questions at the end of the chapter. Do you know what conifers are? Well, conifers are the type of trees such as pines that have cones instead of colorful flowers. About a third of the world's trees are conifers, and the vast majority of conifers are found in the great conifer forests of North America and Siberia. Conifers are hardy trees that have been able to survive well, and as a result, both the oldest and the biggest trees in the world belong to the conifer family. The oldest known living tree is a 4,000-year-old bristlecone pine, which is located in California. The giant redwoods, which are also found in California, are the largest trees. They can be several hundred feet tall and weigh as much as 2,000 tons. An interesting note about the giant redwoods is that even though the trees are so large, they have relatively small cones. What is true of most, but not all conifers, is that they are evergreens with needle-like leaves. The needle-like shape of conifer leaves evolved as a reaction to drought. When compared with a flat leaf, a needle presents a much smaller surface area, which decreases the amount of water lost through the leaves. Because most conifers are evergreens, they lose and replace their needles throughout the year, rather than shedding all their leaves in one season, as deciduous trees do. That's all for today. For next class, you should read the next chapter and do the same with it that you did with the chapter for today. See you next class.
Number 5. What does the professor imply about conifers in the lecture? Number 6. What are the students most likely supposed to do for the next class?